Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the show. It is April 12th, 2023, and this is episode 377. I'm excited about today's guest. Man, he's a killer. Air Force Academy, third place at the NCAA Championship. Wyatt Hendrickson. Wyatt, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on this morning. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, all right. Hey, so, NCAA American, your junior world team member, you crazy pinner, just kind of a beast on the mat. But how did you get your start in wrestling? How old were you? How'd you get introduced to it?
So I started wrestling when I was 5 years old. My dad only actually wrestled 1 year in high school, but that was enough for him to say, like, I don't care. My son needs to be a tough man, so I'm gonna put him in wrestling. That was his criteria for that because that 1 year affected the rest of his life. And so I started wrestling when I was 5. My first couple of years, I didn't win any matches. I was just running around with my head off like a chicken with his head cut off. But it was funny because towards the end of one of my first seasons, my dad was like, "Son, you're just going out there and you're just getting pinned every match. Like, what are you doing? You're supposed to get him on his back." And I'm like, "Wait a second. I'm supposed to be getting the other guy on his back." And so, I was a slow learner to the sport, but um, you got to kind of adapt it and do it for yourself. And so, even growing up wrestling, my freshman year, I didn't even qualify for state. And I ended up not being able to pursue football because of some head injuries. And I was like, man, well, I got to make something work. And all I really got left is wrestling. So I really adapted it to myself and took it upon myself that, wrestling is what I'm going to do and I'm going to be really good at it. So then I came back and ended up making it to state, and I was a runner up my sophomore year and then won it 2 more years. And ever since then, it's been really easy to get behind something when you're doing it for yourself.
That's amazing. I assume like you look like you'd been really good at football from just your build and the way you wrestle, but like that's taken away from you. But a jump from not qualifying to taking second is like a giant leap. Was that a physical thing? Was it mental? Was it just this drive kind of thing you were describing?
I think it was a little bit of everything. That's kind of when I was first introduced to obviously like mental toughness. Obviously I've developed a lot more of that. But what's crazy is I was still not a great wrestler at all. Most of my matches, I was going out there and I was losing the third period by 7 or 8 points, but I just had the will to win, and I was just like, I'm gonna keep coming at you. And so I started winning matches, not really because I was super good at technique, but just because I was trying to outwork everyone. I just never gave up. And so those matches, I had to break people and then just start scoring takedowns and getting some turns. But those matches weren't like good wins. I just had the will to win, and I never stopped wrestling.
That's kind of the way you still wrestle. Just put on the gas the whole time. Uh so you take second. You're done with football. You're all in on wrestling. At what point did you say like college? I want to go to college and wrestle.
So I remember getting my very first like letter in the mail, and it was from a super small school, but I was like, "Dad, I did it. Like, someone wants me to come wrestle for him." And so my sophomore year, I was like, "Yes." I was super excited about that. And then that hit. The biggest thing is thinking long term because wrestling's a tough sport. And after every season, I was like, man, I'm ready to be done with high school. And then looking into college, I'm like, well, if I have to go to college and wrestle, I got to wrestle for another 4 years. And so I knew I wanted to obviously go to college and do a sport. And so I was like, well, wrestling's my best shot and someone wants me. So it just kind of it went up from there. And then I remember getting my letter from the Air Force Academy. I've always been super patriotic and people love giving back in different ways. But I was like, I just don't think the military is for me. So I threw the letter away and I was like, I'm not going to the Air Force. And my dad comes sprinting out of his bedroom and he's like, "What'd you say? Did you say Air Force?" And he's like, "What about it? Is it recruiting letter?" And I'm like, "Nah, they wanted me to come wrestle." I was like, "I don't even know what that means. Like, wrestling in the Air Force, that's not even a thing." And he's like, "Give me that." And he grabbed the letter, read it over, and he's like, "Son, do you realize what this is?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a recruiting thing for the Air Force." He's like, "No, son, they want you to come wrestle for the United States Air Force Academy." And he was talking up, and I'm just like, "I don't know what you're talking about, Dad." So I kind of understood what the pull behind that. And the more I talked to people, a lot of my dad's friends are like, "You got a letter from the Air Force Academy?" Like, oh my goodness. And so I was like, wow, this must actually be a cool thing. And so I looked into it, and I really I was kind of bought into the process. I was like, you know what? I think this is just calling my name. I came on my visit, and as soon as I left, I'm like, I want to go back home. But I was talking about the Air Force Academy, not my place back in Kansas. And so really just the whole process of coming here was just an absolute blessing the way it worked out, and it worked out in the perfect way. And now here I am. I'm 1 year away from graduating. Thank goodness. Time flies.
Yeah. Wow. What describe that first visit to the Force Academy that you just mentioned, where you're driving home to Kansas, but you're talking about the Air Force. Like, what was it's not a regular campus. I don't even know what was it like. I mean, I know what it's like, but I don't know what your experience was like.
So the first thing I noticed was I was like, wow, I'm out of breath after every set of stairs I go up. And that has not changed. Not a single thing of that has changed. But really just the atmosphere. I've always really I like working hard. I like working really hard. And I like it when there's people alongside me that have the same values as me, doing the same thing. And when I came here, everyone was just so goal oriented, and like we're a mission first. The wrestling team is a mission first program. Like, yes, we have a wrestling team, but more than that, we're going to be officers, United States Air Force. And so kind of just coming here, and the coaches, obviously the facilities are awesome. We got world-class facilities, but more than just wrestling, they care about you as an individual. And, obviously we talked about wrestling my visit, but more than that, it was like, hey, what kind of person are you? What are you looking for in life? Like what things do you want to expect? And they're very honest about, like, well, this is a hard place. This is going to challenge you. It's not going to be easy, because I mean, we recruit 1,200, 1,300 people a year, and we only end up graduating about 800 of them. And so they try to get it through, like, hey, this isn't just like some college you're going to come to, because when you're getting recruited through athletics, obviously you have an athletic background. It's a little bit different than people that are just coming straight into the academy. So when I came here, I just really felt like, wow, like these are my coaches, but like they're going to be my family, and they definitely are. And so just that sense of belonging when I got here, I was like, I want that. And so it was really a no-brainer when I was making the decision to come wrestle here.
Sure. And what did they explain to you? Like, how is your school tied into the military? Right.
So we have three big pillars here: academics, military, and athletics. Obviously, for me, athletics is a very big pillar, but I mean, it all ties into your OPA, which is really important for when you graduate. So everything's really intertwined. Academics is the most weighted. It's about 50% of what goes into that. So you got to be good. You got to be nice and smart, I guess. I remember when I took the ACT, like the minimum to get trained in the academy, I think it's about a 26. But I came here and took the ACT, and they're like, congratulations, why you made it. And I'm like, yes. And I was like, oh, sweet. And they're like, well, like you made it into the prep school. And I was like, all right, I'll take it. I was not the smartest kid in high school, but thank goodness I had a good work ethic. And so I ended up, I mean, I guess I'm just sharing everything. I think super
Love it.
sport, I only ever got a 22, a 23 on the ACT. So I went to the prep school, which was awesome. And then I came straight into the academy, but everything's intertwined throughout the day. Obviously, I got a good workout in this morning. Now I'm going to go to school, and then we'll have some more military training at the end of the day. But it's all really intertwined here.
Okay. And so you went into the prep school for what, 1 year?
I did, yes.
And are you training? Do they train? Is it on the campus in Colorado Springs with the academy? Is it elsewhere, or do you wrestle with prep people? Do you wrestle with the academy people? What was that like?
So the prep school is on campus. It's only about 3, 4 miles away. We do have our own wrestling room down there. We do have like a whole separate team with the Huskies down there. We do have a different schedule. It's not D1, just kind of going around doing some small tournaments. But about twice a week, you do get to come up to the academy and train through the AFRTC. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. You can go down there and focus on yourself with like a smaller group. There's only about 7 or 8 of us, and then at the same time, you can come up here and wrestle with the team that you're going to be a part of the next year.
Okay. And is there like a military aspect to that? Like you said today, later on you'll have some military training or whatnot. Was there something like that down at the prep school?
Yeah, the prep school is so at the academy. Obviously, we have 4 years, and your freshman year is pretty tough. Then you got some stuff your sophomore year, junior, senior. So it kind of goes in phases. They do that at the prep school, but kind of by semester. So the first semester is like simulating your freshman year, second, sophomore year, and so forth for the third and fourth semester. which is super nice because you get a big thing up here is having a car. You're not allowed to have a car as a freshman or a sophomore,
Oh
but at
wow.
the prep school, you're allowed to have a car year the second semester. So having a car up here, you're like, wow, I finally did it just to come up to the academy. And then you're like, well, I guess I really didn't yet. Boom, you're back to stage one, but it's really helpful because you've already kind of gone through the phases.
Yeah. And describe to me like military training. I assume that's not just marching in lines, right? Like what is? I'm sure there's a variety also, but tell me about some of the military training that goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, the marching, we do that stuff, a couple times a week. That's obviously not the most fun, but um, as soon as you graduate this place, you don't have a choice. You're a leader. And so, I mean, regardless of what you did at the academy. And so every other day we have a good hour blocked off, depending on the day, usually in the middle of the day right after lunch or in the evening. Just the biggest thing that I find helpful is we have a lot of our leaders, our AOCs, they're in charge of the squadrons. They'll come and talk to us about their experience, what helped them. We'll have panels open. So that's the biggest thing that I think is super helpful. That's pretty much they're just trying to help us be prepared to because here at the academy it's very different than the operational Air Force, like the big Air Force. So what we're going to be doing, because here all we know how to do is just grind through it, do your homework, and do this. So it's not really that big of life threatening situations versus if you make mistakes later on, it's going to cost a lot more. And so they really just kind of give their perspective, and I say that's what the majority of them are, is just helping us become prepared over the 4 years. And you get 4 years of this too. So your freshman year, like, wow, this is annoying. It doesn't matter. I'm like, how's this going to help me do my homework? But then as soon as you become a junior, senior, you're like, wow, I'm glad I'm getting to know this now, because in 2 years, like, you're not going to have all these resources like we do right now. So they really just try to pour into you everything they can before you graduate.
Okay. And after you graduate, is the plan, or do you have to go into the Air Force, like like you said, the real Air Force?
Yes, and so it's a 5 year commitment, which a lot of people look at that and they're like, "Oh, I got to serve, in the Air Force for 5 years." But honestly, that's the best thing I could ask for. You don't have to. It's a guaranteed job. So as soon as I graduate, there's already a perfect slot for me going in. And after 5 years, if I don't like it, then I can leave. But let's say if something happens, I have I graduated from the Air Force Academy. I have 5 years of experience in the military as an officer, as a leader already. So I mean, it just puts you in a great spot. I mean, I'm hoping to make a career out of it, but yeah, a lot of people look at it as like service, like you have to do it, but it's absolute blessing to have that. If it's a guaranteed job, you don't have to really. It takes a lot of the stress off your senior year.
Yeah. Um. So if you get into the Air Force, I guess that doesn't necessarily mean you fly, right? There's probably people in the Air Force who aren't pilots. Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to fly? Do you want
Yeah.
to?
So that was my original goal. I used to be a lot smaller, believe it or not. I was about like 215 my prep school year. I did used to want to fly, but about 49 to 50% of the people that graduate the Air Force Academy, they become pilots. And so not everyone flies, but about half of us do. So about 2,000. Um, for me, I used to want to be a pilot really bad. I used to get motion sickness. I was terrible with roller coasters. And I really wanted to come to the Air Force Academy and fly. I was like, okay, I need to get tougher. So I started going on roller coasters and trying to like just not like, no, I need to stay on again. Like, you don't understand. I need to get used to this. That I don't know if that was the smartest thing. It did not work out very well for me. I still got very sick, but they have stuff here they can help that with. But I just started to get bigger, and I mean, whenever you think of Air Force, you think of the fighters, you think of F-22s, the F-15s. You don't like think of the big carriers, and the carriers are awesome. But I was like, if I fly, I'm gonna fly the fastest thing we got. And trying to get incentive rides this summer, I had to get a waiver. They're like, oh, well, you're over the weight limit. Don't worry, we'll take care of it. And then I went to get my waiver, and they're like, well, I'm sorry, but I don't think this plan's gonna be able to eject you. Like, we can't give you a waiver for this. You're over the limit. So I was like, well, there we go. So that was an interesting situation. But I want to go into. I'm actually hoping to go into the Space Force now. So we're commissioning the Air Force and the Space Force out of the academy. So I'm hoping to go Space Force acquisitions and go that route.
What does Space Force acquisitions mean?
So that's pretty much the like a financial position. So pretty much what I'll be able to do is I'll be dealing with money a lot. And so we'll say, what do we need at this base? And if I'll pretty much I'm the bank. I'm like the debit card. So whenever someone needs to do something, they go through me and I'm going to approve that expense, stuff like that. If we need a new couch or, if we need a new jet, it's going to go through me and I'll kind of make those financial decisions.
That's awesome that like you have this path in your mind of like almost exactly where you want to go, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely, your freshman sophomore year, you don't think of it that much, but now it's becoming real. Like after this year, I'll be a senior. I'll be a big leader at the Air Force Academy, and then I'll be a lieutenant. And so trying to balance everything, there's definitely a good balance to it because I got goals as an athlete. I want to be a national champion, but at the same time, I have goals on the military side. Like I want to be a squadron commander here, and I got multiple sets of goals, so they're really they make it easy to intertwine everything. They give you, like I said, they give you specified time. Like for athletics, it was like, hey, they got to go practice right now. You can't schedule anything during that time, so they really help out.
Sure. Uh, back to the wrestling part a little bit, right? What like coming into the Air Force Academy or into college, I guess. What kind of goals or expectations did you have for yourself?
So obviously, I always knew I wanted to be an All American because that was to me that was like if I can be an All American, like that's it. That's what I want to do. And after my freshman year, I really just had to boost the confidence. I was like, I think I'm a better wrestler. That's kind of when I was open to the mental side of wrestling. I was like, I think, I think I'm actually a pretty good wrestler. So I always tape my goals on the front of my locker, and after that, I instead of having All American, I put a new piece of tape over it and put national champion. And so, I mean, that's still a goal going into next year. But just, I mean, obviously being goal oriented is super helpful. But I mean, I wasn't completely bought into that. I changed my goal to that, but at the same time, I kind of got a little bit. I was like, okay, well, that's my goal. I'll work for it, but I didn't really put in all the work it takes for that. So obviously, last year when I went to the national tournament, you have good days and you have bad days, and I went out there and I got beaten up pretty good, and so I didn't even get as close as I wanted, not near as close as I wanted to. Didn't get even to the round of 12 like I did my freshman year. So that was actually, I mean, it was a blessing in disguise because that really oriented my whole. As soon as that, after that tournament, I went straight to the drawing board, went straight to the gym, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do everything I can so that does not happen again. And I'm glad that happened because, I mean, this year I came out, I think I put on a good performance. And if I do the same thing this summer, I'm like, there's nothing in my way next year.
I love this. I love everything about it. Like, I guess pinning. Were you always like a prolific pinner, or how did you get to that point?
So I think this just comes back to I just I just don't stop. I don't stop wrestling. I don't stop attacking. Like even if I'm winning in a match, I don't care. I want to score more points. And so I think I actually implicitly started doing this in the practice room. Whenever I was wrestling, I get a takedown. I'd always just try to just catch them whenever I could. I'd keep wrestling because a lot of people, I don't know, I feel like they don't expect it very much. But me, if I get a takedown, like I'm jumping up, trying to catch on your back. And it just kind of happened naturally. Like I wasn't like, okay, I'm gonna go pin these people. It's like, all right, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna dominate this guy, no matter, what it looks like. And so even those matches I'm winning, 12, 13 points, getting close to attack, I'm like, well, why wouldn't I? Like I want to be the best. I want to score points. Like, why I'm not gonna take the backseat because I mean he's the aggressor. I want to be the aggressor. My dad always said the best defense is an even better offense. And so I really took that to heart. Um, and I just don't stop wrestling. So and also when you do start to pin people, I was like, wow, like that feels pretty good. Like I said, that's like to me, it's the most dominant way to win a match. And so I remember when the pinning stuff came out last year, and I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. People are sending me this stuff like, oh, dude, you got a lot of pins. And I was like, I don't care. I love wrestling. I wasn't even pay attention to that stuff. So
Yeah,
really, I mean, I'm still not even focusing on that. I'm just going out there and just wrestling hard.
yeah. Oh, it's working. Yeah, and yeah, immediately attacking off of your takedown. Impressive. Uh, to this year's NCAA tournament, you know, did it feel different? Did you feel more confident, more relaxed? I don't anything you might want to describe, or how did it feel different maybe than last year or previous year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely transitioning from high school to college, I thought it'd be like an instant thing, but I really don't think I really adapted until the month before the national tournament. You just staying relaxed is a big concept that I never really adapted. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go do what I want to do. And you can't force stuff in college. So I kind of realized and figured out how to stop wearing myself out because the only person that's going to beat myself in a match is me. And so really just being able to stay calm and relax and just wait for, just let it happen, being patient, that helped a ton. And I kind of finally figured that out with my coaches. Coach Scotty always told me that when I was like, no, nah, I'm okay. Like, this is what I've always done. I'm not going to change this. But he finally got through my thick skull and got it through to me that, man, maybe I got to, I got to change some stuff up. And so I really just started to relax and, it carried me pretty well.
Sure. Um, take a really close loss in the semifinals. Tell me about having. I don't know how you take losses. Everybody takes them differently, but like having to have a short memory. Get rid of that pretty quickly because the next morning you got you know two guys that are chomping at the bit.
Yeah. Definitely that match was, I was I was taking one match at a time, but I was like, I've prepared for this match. I'm ready for it. Obviously, I didn't anticipate Kirk feeling like a blanket. Oh my goodness, that guy was. I felt like there was a mountain on top, and I was like, there's no space to move. But definitely after that match, I was like, dang, like I could have done a few things different, could have made some different decisions. But I mean, coulda, shoulda, woulda. It doesn't really matter. I was like, all right, that's out of the way. I'm still gonna come back and take third. And that kind of just reminded me, I'd kind of been through that my freshman year at Big 12s. I lost my first match, and coach was like, "Hey, like you're still one of the toughest guys out here. You're going to come back and take third." And so really having the coaches there to help with that process, again, like, look, that happened. Short memory. You still got to come back and you're going to do this. And I said, yes, I am. And so got right back at it. Um, like I said, mentally, I was just like previous years, like last year, I did not have that good switch. As soon as I lost, I was like, wow, I'm just a terrible wrestler versus this year's a lot more productive thoughts. And so I was like, all right, we're going to do it. Came out the next day and wrestled tough.
Sweet. And we got that third place match. Nico, if we could cue that up, the match video. It's just it's like maybe a minute and a half highlight, but I just want to watch it and you can kind of take us through what you're thinking or feeling.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can't force stuff. So I was really just like, it's hard to be patient, but I was like, I'm just going to wait for it. After that first takedown, I was like, okay, I could do this. I knew I was anticipating a hard fought match, which it really was until I, caught him on a lat whip. But I mean, just kind of staying on the offense and attacking the whole time was my primary goal.
It's like twice you attack for the cradle. I guess you didn't
Mm,
do that. And when like that lat whip you're talking about, it'll come up here in a moment. But was that like the whole time? Because we kind of got set up for a second. Were you thinking that the whole time?
I was not. It was like a last second decision. I was trying to think like, what would my dad say if I did this? Because I
Yeah,
used to always reach back as a kid, but my excuse was my hand was already there, so it was there, and I felt super tight, and I was like, well, I know I got some good hips, so I was sitting there thinking, I was like, you know what, like full send, let's do it. And as soon as I got him on his back, that thing was so tight, I couldn't even get my arm out of there if I wanted to. And I was like, all right. And it still kind of wasn't hitting me. I was like, wow, this is really happening. So, I mean, I was like, wow, that just happened. I was like, so there we go.
that had to be a great feeling.
It was awesome. It was a great feeling.
I and just like you think about you wrestling in junior worlds, and I know you came up just short in a really close semi. But like, describe the atmosphere at the NCAAs versus like anything else, right? Even the junior worlds.
Yeah, I think something that's a little different was it was during COVID, so there weren't that many fans. But
Yeah,
I mean, Coach Barber's been going to these tournaments. I mean, I agree with him on this, but Coach Barber's been going to these tournaments he's gone to Worlds, all these big tournaments. He's like, nothing compares to NCAA's. And definitely this year, when you're in that atmosphere and you look up and you see all those fans, it's like, it's really, it's like, I'm so great. You're grateful for the opportunity. I'm like, wow, I get to come out here. I get to wrestle tough in front of all these fans. And just the crowd it's unlike anything I've ever been a part of. So, I mean, just even being there is, oh my gosh. I mean, it's kind of undescribable. It's insane and it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, had to be a great way to finish out your college season going out like that, and like you said, in that type of atmosphere. And I know you got class here shortly, so just a couple other things I want to get to. First, when I hit you up, you said you're not a funny guy, but we're going to ask you anyways. Um, Joke time. Want to hear you tell a joke. Corny, awesome, not too dirty, whatever.
So I mentioned this is okay. This is terrible, but it's not terrible. It's just I'm not good at jokes. But I mentioned I'm going to the Space Force. So, have you heard about the astronaut who's super claustrophobic? Well,
No,
it's okay. We're taking care of him. All he needed was just a little bit of space.
I got it. I got it. I love it. No, that's great. That's great. All right, one other little game we like to play too. This one's called Wins and Whoopings. Like if you think back over, I don't know, your first match as a 5-year-old or up to your most recent match, can you think of one win that stands out? Maybe it was that one, right? Could be Cassiope, but it could be anything. It could be like somebody that used to beat you in your high school and you beat them, or a big comeback, whatever it was, right? One match win that stands out as memorable, and one just like ass whooping where you just got the tar beat out of you and you came off feeling like, what? Ah, God, I don't even know how to wrestle. What's going on? So one win, one
I'm gonna
whooping. You can do either one first.
I'm gonna start off with the loss, and it was at Virginia Beach Nationals. I wrestled Aaron Brooks, and I don't watch wrestling. I never really grew up. Obviously, my dad, we all watched wrestling, but I didn't really pay attention that much to my level. And I actually went out there. I didn't even know who he was. Everyone on my team was like nervous. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like, I'm a tough guy. Don't worry. And I went out there and oh my gosh, he bumped up a weight too. I was wrestling 220, I think, or 190, 195. But I just got, I ended up getting tagged. But I remember I finally got on his legs and he just high flyered the crap out of me. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. So that was definitely like, I got beat up. That was my junior year of high school, I think. And a win that stands out is, I think it was my sophomore year at a small tournament against the number 2 ranked guy in the state, Austin Andres. That was like he was like the biggest guy, like at any weight. He was just jacked. He was huge, and I went out there and mentally I was like, man, I like this is just gonna be tough. But I went out there and then I ended up beating. I ended up pinning him in the cradle, and that's when I realized like, wow, like it can be done. And so that's really when like this is my all-time favorite quote: whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're usually right. And so I was like, wow, like mental is a pretty good thing. Like if I went out there and I thought I was gonna win up, that would have helped a lot more before the match. But that was really the big match when I finally turned that corner and went on that upward route on my whole wrestling career.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's great that you figured it out because it's not easy, right? But the mental side and it's easy to say you have to believe, but it's not always easy to believe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
And it looks like you definitely do believe. So I'm gonna let you scoot out of here. I know you got class, but man, it's been an honor chatting with you today. It's been a lot of fun and hearing your story and what drives you and how motivated you are and the goals and super stoked to see you for another NCAA season, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. The postseason starting wrestling at the U.S. Open, so preparing for that. Wrestling it's a very unique sport, and all the wrestlers out there, I think we all got that different bond because wrestling's unlike anything else. It's a pretty tough sport. But yeah, thank you for having me on, man. This is pretty awesome. I love telling my story every time I can.
Cool, awesome. Well, hey, I'll see you out in Las Vegas. Good luck out there, man, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
All right, yep, take care. All right, folks. Man, that was an awesome one. Wyatt Hendrickson, really, really, really fun guy to watch wrestle. So we'll keep an eye out for him. Appreciate his time, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks. See you later.